Every single living thing on our planet, from the smallest insect to the biggest whale, has one thing in common: a home. But what happens when that home gets, well, interrupted? Sometimes the change is slow, happening over generations. Other times, it happens in a flash. Today, we're going to dig into what these changes really mean for the survival of so many species.
It sounds a little bit like the start of a weird joke, right? But the answer is actually the key to understanding everything we're talking about today. A drought, a beaver, and a bulldozer, they are all incredibly powerful forces that can totally transform an animal's home, its habitat. So let's start right there with what a habitat really is.
Okay, so first things first, let's make sure we're all on the same page. When we use the word habitat, what are we actually talking about? Because it's so much more than just a place on a map.
To put it simply, a habitat is a complete life support system. It's a specific spot where a plant or an animal has absolutely everything it needs to live and grow. Think of it like the ultimate all-inclusive resort, totally provided by nature.
But here's the thing. These homes, they're not always stable. They can change, and they do change. And that change is usually driven by one of three very different forces: the planet itself, the other animals that live there, and, yep, us.
So let's start with nature. Habitats are always in flux, and sometimes they get changed by huge natural events like floods or wildfires, or one of the biggest ones of all, a drought.
A drought it's a simple concept, but it's completely devastating. When the rain just stops for a really, really long time, the number one ingredient for life, water, just vanishes. And without it, plants and animals just can't make it.
And the impact is, wow, it's stark. You can see it right here. The earth is cracked where there used to be water. And these sunflowers, which need that water to live, are completely withered. A habitat that was once vibrant is now hostile to the very life that it used to support. But change doesn't always come from these massive natural events. Sometimes the animals themselves are the architects of change. You could almost call them nature's own engineers.
I mean, just take a look at the beaver. It builds a dam, it blocks up a stream, and by doing that, it completely remodels the entire environment. What used to be a fast-flowing home for certain fish and bugs, well, it becomes a calm pond. And just like that, you have a brand new home for different kinds of plants, for frogs, and for ducks. The beaver is what we call a keystone species, an animal whose actions have a huge ripple effect on its whole ecosystem.
And that brings us to the third, and honestly, the most powerful agent of change. While nature can take a long time, and animals engineer their local spot, human activity can change habitats on a massive scale and with unbelievable speed. I mean, a single bulldozer can do in one day what might take nature decades or even centuries to do. It can wipe out an entire field, an entire forest, getting rid of all the grass, the plants, the trees that gave other animals food and a place to hide. The original habitat is just gone, replaced by a construction site.
So we've got these forces of change, right? But what actually happens to the residents, the animals, when their homes are suddenly changed or totally destroyed? This is where the consequences get really, really serious for animal populations.
Well, when animals can't find what they need to survive in their home anymore, their numbers start to drop. And if this happens to too many of one kind of animal, the whole species starts to face a really serious threat.
And this is what it means to be endangered. It's a critical tipping point. It's that moment where a species is truly at risk of disappearing from the face of the earth. Forever.
Just think about these two incredible species, the tiger and the manatee. They're both endangered, but for very different reasons, and both of those reasons have to do with us.
For tigers, it's a double whammy. They're hunted, and at the same time, their forest homes are being cut down for lumber. For whooping cranes, it's that their marshy habitats are literally being paved over to build stuff for people. And for the gentle manatees, the rivers they live in are getting so crowded with boats and fishing nets that they get hurt. In every single case, human activity is the main thing putting the squeeze on these unique animals.
But it is not all bad news. There are some really amazing stories of hope. Take the American alligator. It was once endangered too. But through a lot of hard work and conservation, people helped them bounce back. So this proves that our actions can also be a huge force for good.
But that kind of success story requires action. What happens when we don't act in time? When a species finally loses its fight for survival, that change is permanent.
And that's extinction. It means they're gone. Forever. There is no coming back. While some plants and animals that lived a long, long time ago are still around today, so many others have died out completely.
So how do we even know about all these lost species? Well, our only real connection to them is through fossils. These preserved bits and pieces are like little snapshots from the past, telling us how an animal might have looked or lived millions of years ago.
Basically, every single fossil tells a story. It's the final chapter for a species that once lived on this planet but just doesn't anymore. They're like echoes from a world we can never, ever visit.
And all of this leaves us with a really critical question, doesn't it? Fossils give us a crystal clear record of the life that has been lost. So, what story will our world today tell? What will be the fossils of our time? And what will they say about the choices we're all making right now?